This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome in, Paul Catalina, and we're matching today, Pierre. Look at this. We're both got the black hoodie on. You know, we did not coordinate this. I just want to say.
Matches our black hearts.
Yes, absolutely. Pierre Noujaim, who had strep throat last week, which is nearly a fate worse than death. So
it's awful. It's awful. Believe it or not, this is the fourth or fifth time I've had this in my entire lifetime, and this felt almost as bad, if not equally as bad, as when I got my tonsils taken out 7 years ago. And at this point, Paul, I'd like the opportunity to call out that quack doctor who took out my tonsils, who after the surgery told me, congratulations, you'll never have a sore throat ever again in your life. I was like, oh, that's cool. And what happens? I'm down for the count last week.
I had my tonsils out when I was 7 years old.
Yeah,
okay?
that's the time to do it.
Right before the second grade.
Yeah.
I've had many a sore throat in the near 40 years since then.
Yeah.
And I've had strep throat a few times. Like,
it's awful.
You'll never get see, that's a lie. You'll never get a sore throat because of these again, but you'll still get sore throats. Look, I've lost my voice many a time in my life through colds or coughs, or one time when I was in college, FSU lost to Miami in the bottom of the ninth inning in the College World Series final, and I just yelled into the void for like an indeterminate amount of time until I couldn't talk for 48 hours.
Right.
So, that had nothing to do with my tonsils. They were long gone.
I may have misunderstood the doctor as well, because I was on a lot of pain medication coming out of that surgery, so it was a little bit fuzzy. But you said that you had yours taken out when you were in second grade. Mm-hmm. I had mine out when I was 33 years old.
Yeah.
And if anybody at home watching right now, if you're an adult and you're getting your tonsils out, here is my advice to you. Take all of the recommended medication and more after surgery. Just down it. Take all the medication. I made a fatal mistake of not doing that, and I was in pain for a full week. So take all the medication you can.
Yeah. Pierre, we have a breaking news story to get to in a second, but I do want to say this about the tonsils. My biggest memory from it is back in 1987 or 8, whenever it was. So 7 or 8 years old. So whenever that was, it was it was right at the end of the summer before I started second grade. I had to stay in the hospital overnight, which for a little kid is terrifying. It was absolutely, I had 400 nightmares. Waking up, have another nightmare. I was convinced crazy things were going on in that hospital. I know my mom was sleeping right there. My dad wanted to sleep there, but he snored like a howitzer. So it was no, I don't care. Please go home. And I had a little sister at the time too. She was little, almost 1 year old. So, I guess that would have been the bigger reason. But one, it was okay, you take care of the little one who sleeps through a bomb, and she'll stay here, because she was at the time a nurse too. So she was way more valuable than he was. And I, I'm sure he's looking down going well, the hell with you. But school was like 6 days later. And so for the first 2 weeks of school, because you know how long it takes to really heal.
Oh, yeah.
And that was in the 80s, where it took probably even longer, because it wasn't outpatient surgery. It was, there were no lasers involved. It was an actual knife, So I had to drink grape juice twice a day, a little juice box. And I did drink grape juice twice a day during school, and I really couldn't eat much. It was, there's only soft, cold things. You can't, anything that's above room temperature is just going to kill you. Yeah. And so I would get this juice box in the middle of the day, and this is how different things were in the 80s. In the 80s, especially in Catholic school, they wouldn't let you, have water or drink anything in class. Like
No.
that was a lack of discipline. Now kids have water, like you got to make sure kids are hydrated, get water bottles and everything. But like oh, how does he get to have grape juice? And I'm like, look, first of all, one, as much as it feels good at the tip of my mouth, like the minute it hits the throat, it feels like I'm drinking gravel. Like that's what it felt like. So I'm like sitting there in class trying not to cry, drinking a grape juice and be a tough guy. And then my friends are like, hey man, sneak me one of them Welch's. Come on. You know you want to. No, I need these for my throat. My mom will get mad.
Yeah.
So yeah. Come on, man. We're best friends. Are we?
Yeah.
Are we, Greg?
Where were you when I was getting my tonsils out? Were you there by my bed? I didn't see you anywhere.
No, you were not. Shut up about it, Greg, or I'll tell everybody of the bedwetting.
That's right. Exactly.
So, but Inside Carolina is reporting that UNC is, in fact, finalizing the deal for Bill Belichick to be the new head coach there at North Carolina. Look, I am all for big swings. I mean, like, look, I'm all for, fortune favors the bold and all of that. This is a very, very big swing that if the report, and I have no reason to believe that they're not, that he's given them this 400-page how-to manual about how he wants the department set up, how much money is going to be outlaid to positions and coaches, and that there's going to be a recruiting staff and a coaching staff, which I think eventually will be the way that everybody is going to have to do this because of the way the world works. It's going to have to be more like pro sports because you'll have to have a GM that has a general manager's department with scouts and recruiters, and you'll have to have a coach who can coach. But the difficult gap to bridge is going to be these are not 22, 23-year-old kids and older. These are 16, 17, 18-year-old kids who are coming in. So the relationship with the coaches matter maybe a little bit more than on a professional sense. And Pierre, you cover both college and pro sports on a daily basis. And I think of all the people we could have on the show to talk about this week, you're uniquely positioned to talk about Kevin O'Connell's relationship with his players to PJ Fleck's relationship with his players. It is similar, but not exactly the same. It's a different dynamic. Do you think Bill Belichick can bridge this gap at North Carolina and make it kind of the hybrid thing? Because this is a different world that he is stepping into that he has not been in since he took a job with the Baltimore Colts, not the Indianapolis Colts, the Baltimore Colts, in, I believe, 1975. So he's not been in college for a half a century. Now, if anybody can figure out, it's probably him, but this is not, I would not call this a home run. I would call it a big swing, and we're waiting to see if it carries out of the ballpark slowly.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely a fair way to look at it, too. And for the life of me, I can't figure out who this makes less sense for. Does it make less sense for Bill Belichick, or does it make less sense for the University of North Carolina? Because if you're the Tar Heel program, you got to be thinking to yourself, and this is why we all thought that they were parting ways with Mac Brown, is that we thought that they would go younger and that we thought they would find somebody who would be there for the long haul to help build that program and mold it into something that could carry on for the next 10, 15 years. Bill Belichick is 72 years old. Now, that's not to say that he's still not capable of being a great football coach, but in an environment of college athletics, and given the state of what college athletics has turned into with the NIL, and you still have the recruiting trail, which is not probably a long trail a 72-year-old would want to take part in. I know he's not going to go on every single trip. I fully understand that. But I can't figure out who's benefiting more in this situation. And bear in mind, for me, the shocker of it all to me is when you think about it, Bill Belichick is only 26 wins away from tying, 27 wins away from surpassing Don Shula for all time on the head coaching wins list in the National Football League. He's accomplished everything you possibly can in the league. That would be the last thing for him to accomplish. And even though I just said he's 72 years old, By no means, Paul, do I think that the game has passed him by. I have no reason to believe that the game has passed him by at the pro level. He just didn't have the talent the last couple of years in New England. It happens. It happens to every single coach. So I, for the life, cannot understand why Bill Belichick would want to undertake this type of task. And as you mentioned, has no experience at the collegiate level. And it is an absolute jungle out there in college football right now. I can't understand why he would do this. It's a different level of athlete that you have to relate to, like you were alluding to. Can he do that? I'm going to refrain from commenting on his personal life. That makes me think that maybe he could. But
look, I'll comment on all you want. I said it during the show yesterday. Smokey brought up the fact that, like, I don't know if this guy can talk to people in that age demographic. I went, listen, the thing he's doing right now is hard to getting a kid to come play quarterback for you. So I'll just tell you, I mean, right now, maybe we don't know the skills that Bill Belichick has.
Yeah, you're not wrong there at all. I'm not sure what Bill is getting out of this experience, and I'm not really sure how North Carolina is I'm not sure what their thought process is in terms of molding a program to go into the future.
Yeah, no, I don't know either. And here's the thing: is he disinterested in the NFL, or is the NFL disinterested in him?
I think it's the latter.
I think the NFL is a little disinterested in him because why? What job is he going to get? Now, I think part of the reason he might have jumped into this now is I think the job he wanted, because to get those 27 wins, you're talking about 2 to 3 good seasons, right?
Yeah.
So you need, 11, 12 wins, I mean, because it's
at least in 2 seasons.
In 2 seasons, so you need to go 13-4 in 2 seasons, right? And then a third season. So you're talking 3 seasons to reasonably get that done. If you're just 1 game over 500, you could do it in 3 seasons. But what jobs are going to be open that will allow him to do that in a short amount of time? I think the one he was hoping for was Philadelphia, because there was a thought that Philadelphia would move on from Nick Sirianni because he's even too rude for Philly. Like he's right. That, which is a weird thing to say, because it's the most ironically named city in the world, the city of brotherly love, when if you've ever been to Philly, there's some awesome dudes in Philly. I've had a blast when I've been in Philly. I did stand-up comedy there, 20 years ago, and I've been back since, but only once. And every time I've had a good time. But I will tell you that I went to Gino's Steaks, and there were some guys. They were playing. It was in December. They were playing the Cowboys that weekend, and here I am, a Cowboys fan in Philadelphia. Not a really smart thing to be.
Right.
And so I'm at Gino's, and both teams were kind of mediocre. The Eagles had Donovan McNabb, but they were a little bit better. But neither team was really that great. It was 2003. So the Eagles were probably better. I knew they were going to win, but the guys were kind of talking trash about the Cowboys. So I'm about to say something, and my dad's best friend who lived up there, and I was there with me at the restaurant. The guy's like, yeah, the Cowboys, they're awful, they're worse than the dirt, on the floor here, they're terrible. The Cowboys are garbage, and I was like, oh, I got to talk a little sports trash with this guy. That's what I'm going to do. He literally grabbed my arm and squeezed it like this, like my wife does now when she knows I'm about to say something she doesn't want me to. And then I was like, okay, so I'm not going to say anything. And he's like, hey, I saw, I could hear the thoughts coming out of your brain about you. He's like, this is not South Philly, 9th and Passyunk is not the place to have this discussion. Like, do you want something in that sandwich? Like,
yeah.
They do. Like, you can call, like, if you called the Board of Health and said, this guy put his junk in my sandwich and made me watch it, and he'd be like, why'd you do that? It's like, he's a Cowboys fan. Oh, here, let me put my junk in it too.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like, hold on. You sit there. Tommy, hold him down. I mean, like, that's what would happen. Like,
right.
That's the rule. It's a city code in Philadelphia. Yeah, you can. Yeah, we got to be clean for everybody else, for the Eagles fans and the Phillies fans. But for you dirty, disgusting Cowboys fans, I'll get a line of people here to just to do this. Doubt. So, yeah. So I think that was the job he wanted. I don't think Philadelphia can fire Nick Sirianni because they're good. They're really good. They're contenders. So unless he makes Jeff Lurie so mad, which Jeff Lurie's not that dude. Jeff Lurie's the kind of like, he's the anti-Jerry Jones where it's like, hey, I got smart guys here doing things. So what if my coach, the fans don't really like him? They don't like anything. You know, they threw batteries at Santa. Like, let's not forget who we are. So since Belichick, that job's not open. I wouldn't right now, as much as I said, Jerry can sell anybody anything. I would not want the Cowboys head job if I'm Bill Belichick.
Yeah, no, and I agree. There's 3 jobs out there right now that I can think of that Bill would probably look at and think to himself, probably not. And even though as much as I'm sure he would love to coach the New York Giants, as much as he would love to go back to New York and coach the New York Giants if that job came open, what's he going to – it's a rebuilding process. Same thing in New Orleans. New Orleans is undergoing a rebuilding process. The only other job that I think would be interesting for him would be Chicago. I think that would – I mean, you have the number 1 overall pick. Bill knows how to build a defense. Lord knows Chicago could use a little help in that right now. So Chicago, I thought, would be an interesting spot for Bill, but you're right. There's nothing out there right now where I would have to imagine Bill Belichick is looking at and thinking to himself, you know, I've got to be here. I've got to be here. I need this job, right? There's got to be a right place and a right time, and I don't think there's neither for that right now for Bill in the NFL. Yeah, no, I don't think there is, and I wonder, how this will work out. But look, I'm here to learn. I'm here to watch. There's going to be a lot of people that pontificate and do that today, but like, there's no way that Bill Belichick can, like, okay. Who's going to be his Tom Brady? And he's going to leave every 3 years. Like, it's not the same. He wouldn't have done anything. All right, let me stop you right there. Just see what happens. The man is the most brilliant professional football coach that's ever lived. Okay? He is next level genius. And everybody who played for him, including Tom Brady, will tell you that. In fact, they're cool now. They just got to a point where they got tired of each other. It happens. Yeah. It happens. Hall and Oates won't talk now. Doesn't mean they're not great together. So, but yeah, it just, I'm sure Oates is like, look, I don't need him. And Hall's like, I don't need Oates. And they're like, yeah, you guys kind of do, and then, like Tom Brady goes off, has to hit without him. See, I told you, but then his career's over. So, he proved one slight thing, but I'm very curious to see what all the parameters are, what they're going to do, how they're going to build this. If it works, how people are going to respond to it, and how much it actually costs. Because the cost for Bill Belichick per year is one thing, but the cost for what he's asking is a completely different thing. And we didn't even know with the House settlement. I mean, there's been some slight adjustments. Like just yesterday, the judge said, okay, well, or the plaintiffs asked the judge to rule on creating some sort of third-party advocate for the plaintiffs to help with these NIL things and all of that, to kind of get out ahead of whatever legislation may or may not be coming. And we're going to talk about Congress later in the show, because 2 things happened within a 24-hour period that sent me into a blind rage. And I'm going to say some things that I don't really care. I don't really care how people react. I just don't. Yeah. I've got to get them out.
I'm just here to tell you that all that uncertainty, you've brought in a guy who already probably knows all the rules already because he just spends his free time doing these things. Like, he's got 3 things to do: media appearances, entertain a 23-year-old bimbo, and read about football and study football. Like, that's his life, you know? Yeah. I mean, you'll see, like, here's the thing. His kids are grown. It's not like he's got to take Steve to the water park on the, you know? he don't have to worry about that. You know, occasionally I'm sure you'll see the grandkids, but, you know, they know who Grandpa is. He's Bill Belichick, you know?
To be honest with you, I'm actually more curious about what staff he's going to put together. Well, I want to see the names that are going to be on the staff that's going to be joining him. Is he going to send LT out on the recruiting trail to get people to go to North Carolina? I'm sure that's a quick phone call he can make. But I'm curious to see what kind of staff he puts together as well and who joins that staff.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. You know what? I do have to say this before we go to the next segment. This is not related anywhere, but you and I talk about baseball from time to time.
Yeah.
We're still trying to figure out your team, which right now the leader in the clubhouse is the Padres.
It is, but I would tell you for right now, the only baseball I will be watching, it'll be my favorite team, and that's the Hanshin Tigers of the Japanese Baseball League. So that I'll be up in the middle of the night because I bought myself a Hanshin Tigers hat in Osaka when I was there earlier in the year. That right now is my team for right now because MLB can do some things that I can't say on the air right now.
I mean, you can say them on this show. I don't have a problem with it. If your employers see it, they might get mad. So
correct. Yes.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't have. You can say whatever you want here.
I want to keep up the good habits that I've built in broadcasting because the moment I let it slip, I may let it fly somewhere else where I'm not supposed to.
Yeah, I would worry about you like on the air tonight. Be like, well, Carl Anthony Towns returned to Minneapolis tonight and dropped 45 points. Good effing trade.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. You know that's on the tip of my tongue too.
Yeah. Good job, Wolves.
Yeah.
You know. Way to go.
Burn bridges wherever I go.
Yeah. Sam Darnold's going to get a big contract. You drafted another guy, idiots.
I asked the question actually on our podcast. I asked the question, is Sam Darnold a franchise quarterback? And you wouldn't believe the backlash in the comment section that I got during this podcast. Just bringing up the question. Just it's amazing to me the train of thought people have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, all that being said, the Red Sox actually did something today that I approve of. They traded 4 prospects, one of whom is their first-round pick from this year, Braden Montgomery from Texas A&M. But Kyle Teal, Chase Medroth, and Wickelman Gonzalez to the Chicago White Sox for left-handed ace Garrett Crochet. So I am buoyed by a sense that my team actually gives a crap about me, because if you've been of me in 2020, late in the last 12 months, since December 5th of last year, so the last 12 months, I've watched FSU get absolutely screwed out of the playoff.
Yep.
Then the momentum of that sent them straight through like a dumpster toilet hellscape of a season. The Red Sox are stuck in a wheel of mediocrity.
Yep.
The Cowboys, this is the worst they've been in a long, and I can't tell you, in over a decade, maybe 20 years since the Dave Campo era, where I look at this team and I have no idea what the future is. And Jerry Jones has finally started to really be 80 years old. Like, it's really showing here. And the only thing as a sports fan I have to cling to is that in a couple years, because Wemby is with the Spurs, they're going to be lethal. But I still have to wait on that because he's 19 years old or whatever he is, you know? So I still have to wait a little while on that. So that's only I do know that this is going to happen eventually. I just have to wait. And
Can I just say one thing on Victor Wembanyama, just real quick, since you brought him up? In the history, in all my years of watching the NBA, and it's extensive, it's probably the league that I have followed the closest over the entire course of my life. I'm going to say something about him that I've never said about any other player, including Michael Jordan. But I mean it when I say it. I have never seen a player that instills fear into my heart when I see him play. Because when I watch him play, I think to myself, heaven help the 31 other teams in this league, because it's over for you. It's absolutely over for all of you. And this man is going to dominate this league for the next 10 to 15 years, and it's going to be frightening. The only thing that's going to slow him down is injury. He strikes fear into my heart because there's no stopping him.
Yeah, I've never seen an athlete that's built like him move like him.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. It's not just that he can shoot. Like Dirk could shoot, right? Dirk, one of the all-time greats. Dirk was not quite that tall, but Dirk was tall and could shoot. But he couldn't move like that. No. There are guys who can move like that but couldn't shoot. Yeah. He can do all this stuff, and not even really move like that, but he can do all these things, and he's not like a big clumsy dude.
Have you ever? And you watch him handle the ball. He can put the ball between his legs like he's a point guard. It's absolutely terrifying. It's terrifying.
He's graceful.
Yes.
He's great. Like most tall guys are not graceful. Yeah. Garnett was probably the closest, I would say. Like Garnett could do it. A couple other guys, but there's even some bull in a china shop with guys like Garnett. That's not Wemby at all.
No, it's not. And you can't have a little grace, Paul. As you know, Elaine Benson tell you, you either have grace or you
don't have grace.
Or you don't have grace. And Wemby has plenty of grace on the basketball court. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. I'd like to think that I have some grace.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Grace.
You either have grace or you don't.
Or you don't. Yes.
We learned this from Elaine Bennis.
Yeah. And I don't have grace. I don't even say grace, okay?
All right. When we come back, Pierre, you broke the story on the bowl that Minnesota was going to. This is a season that everything kind of worked out, I think, better than everybody thought it would from the outside. Maybe not PJ Fleck. Maybe he knew this was going to happen, but the quarterback acquisition worked out. Certainly an upgrade over Ethan Kaliakmanis. And now, it seems like he's taken a little bit of a different tact in talent acquisition. I know he's deep into the portal right now. In our response to Bill Belichick, let's see how other coaches have kind of changed before this happens. I think PJ Fleck might win my you're adapting award, which I didn't think he would do. Because that's an important thing. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the bowl game and some of the things that happened in the portal just in the last few minutes. This is 365 Sports on the Triple Option.
Another day, another blank page. I just can't seem to write anything good for my blog.
I felt the same until I found BlogFi.ai. It's like a content wizard that turns any media into a polished blog post. Ever thought your podcast could be read by people in Italy or Japan? BlogFi makes it happen. Not just translations, Jamie. You can choose from 8+ tones to match your style. Whether it's witty, formal, or casual, your blog will sound just right. From your YouTube videos to PDFs, even snapshots from your last trip. BlogFi.ai crafts SEO-optimized posts with the right meta tags and keywords. It's all about reaching your audience effectively.
This is incredible, Taylor. The dashboard is so user-friendly. I'm already full of ideas. It's like night and day. My draft versus what BlogFi.ai suggests, there's just no comparison.
And you're in good company. Many have turbocharged their blogging with BlogFi.ai. Just see what they're saying. Also, with YouTube Connect, you can sync your channel, bulk generate blogs, and even pinpoint sections of your videos to create targeted posts.
So, it's not just about blogs? I can really get creative with my content on all fronts. That's a game changer for me.
Absolutely. Why not start today? Head over to blogfi.ai and let's get those stories out there. The world's waiting.
From global reach with 125 plus languages to crafting the perfect story in any tone, Blogify.ai is your all-in-one platform for unforgettable content creation. Blogify.ai, empower your words, enhance your story, enrich your audience.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Couple of transfer portal notes real quick to give you in the quarterback world. Connor Wigman, late of Texas A&M and now in the portal. Well, according to On3, he will not be in the portal very much longer. He is on his way to Houston to play for Willie Fritz. He is from Richmond, which is right there in the Houston gigaplex, whatever you want to call it.
Bridgeland. Bridgeland.
Cybridge. Okay, so he's from right there in Houston. So he's Cyprus, right? So he's from Cyprus. Yeah, he's right there from Cyprus. And was a 5-star quarterback recruit, is now on his way to Houston. I love that for them. I mean, it's not really probably great news for Zion Chris, but we'll see. I mean, that might be a competition. But, yeah, he's going to play for Willie Fritz, who is an innovator and can do a lot of things. And we talked about it with former AD Chris Pesman one time. I guess Garrett and I were just talking to him on the field at Big 12 Media Days. And that first year that they were in the Big 12, and we're like, you guys, transfer portal-wise, can do something that many places can't do in that, if a kid leaves Houston and goes to Oklahoma and then gets homesick, well, you can be like, well, just now that you're in the power conferences, you can be like, just come home. Like, you miss your high school sweetheart? You guys had to break up because she stayed here and went to Houston Christian, and you had to go to OU, and it's put a strain on your relationship, and you can't catch the ball because of it. Come catch the ball here. She'll be right there. You miss your mom and dad and grandma and all that? Yeah, right here. Right here. Come on. Orlando, like UCF can do that. There's very few programs that can successfully do that very easily because they're huge recruiting things. If USF ever gets in a power conference, they're going to do it too because Tampa's a great city for football talent. Georgia Tech can't because they can't just go and get anybody. Like, you have to go get, hey, are you an engineer who misses your family from Atlanta? Then come on. They can't just go and grab people. But Connor Wegman going to Houston's a big deal and could really shake up the Big 12 next year because there's some really good quarterbacks coming back like Jalen Daniels and Rocco Becht and all that. But Sorry Robertson, you throw him in the mix. It makes Houston, who is better than most expected this year, take a jump up. Even though they didn't make a bowl game, that's going to be huge for them. And Darian Mensah, who is one of the more sought-after quarterbacks in the portal from Tulane, they just won the AAC, and he led them to that. He's going to Duke to replace Malik Murphy, who jumped into the portal. And I just got to say, I think I like Malik Murphy a lot. He went 9-3. I think that's an upgrade for the Blue Devils. So ACC, watch out. Darian Mensah is a better passer than Malik Murphy is. So those went on just now.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's for me, in terms of transfer portal, I have to admit, this happens so fast and so many things just happen so quickly that I can barely keep up with it. And I'm not going to lie. The only time I'm looking at the transfer portal is to see what PJ Fleck and company are doing, which I know they're going to be active, but it's the wild, wild west, as you know. It's a new world. And I better get on board before I get left behind. I can tell you that.
Yeah, look, it's really hard to keep track of. I have to do a defensive transfer portal segment today. I did an offensive one yesterday, and it's very hard to keep track of. I just try to put here's people you're going to notice, and then sometimes, and this is the recruiting sites because they're trying to get people excited and they want you to subscribe. But they'll be like, star defensive end so-and-so's in the portal, and you're like, nah, you had 3 sacks. Like, star defensive end, true. Like, let's, when you say star, like Darian Mensah is a budding star. Singleton, the wide receiver from Georgia Tech, that dude's a star. Like, he's really good. Ahmad Hardy from ULM, the freshman running back, that dude's a star already. I mean, a ridiculous freshman year. Like, let's, we throw these terms around too much. And you know who I blame? Dancing with the Stars. Because, and I'm ashamed to know this year, but my wife got into, she goes, it depends on who's on. She got really mad when, which I agree with. She didn't want Tyra Banks to be the host. But when they got rid of Tom Bergeron and Aaron Andrews, she didn't like that. Mm-hmm. Especially, listen, Pierre, you and I are probably equal fans of Tom Bergeron because he's a legit game show host.
Like, yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Legend.
Love Tom Bergeron. Maybe Tom's wanted to retire. I don't know. But they moved on from Bergeron and went to Tyra Banks, who is just not good at those things.
Yeah.
So, but now
wasn't Brooke Burke on there for a minute too?
Yeah, she was a dancer. Yeah.
Oh, was she? She wasn't a host. Was she never a host?
I don't know. I have no idea. We've watched the last couple of seasons because Alfonso Ribeiro, who's a really good TV host, and Julianne Hough, who I have no opinion on whatsoever, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it because I don't want it on video of my opinion, because my wife will see that and go, I thought you had no opinion on her. So just going to say, I have no opinion on her whatsoever. She's a talented dancer and wonderful Disney presenter. That's what I will say about Julianne Hough.
Yeah.
And
all
nothing
fair and accurate.
And nothing else. I have nothing else to add. There's no sauce to put on top of those wings. That's all I've got. That's all I've got.
Right.
And if you believe that, I have some land I'd like to sell you.
Yeah, well, I am in the market as it happens with so. But it's like again. I love to bring things back around. Breathtaking, a breathtaking defensive end. Breathtaking. You think he's breathtaking? I mean, not everybody can be breathtaking, can they? Can they?
Well, sometimes you say something just to be nice.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so good. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time I see that actor who played that guy on something, that's all I can think about. He could honestly, he could break out of nowhere of his character actor, win an Oscar for the best movie you've ever seen, for something that tops Citizen Kane and Forrest Gump and whatever you want to say.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes you say something just to be nice. That's all I can think of. And maybe that's why he has it. Maybe he's a better actor than that. But they just say, well, that's the ugly baby doctor. So
it's amazing to me how many people got their not start, but the cameos on Seinfeld from over the years of people who have just gone on to be stars in their own right. It's just been remarkable.
Yeah. Especially ones that waited a while, but you'll see, I was watching it. Anna Gunn from Breaking Bad was one of Jerry's love interests. There's tons and tons. But Pierre, let's talk about PJ Fleck for a second. Have you seen, especially with Max Brosmer coming in as a quarterback, which I know was maybe a bit of a reach in a lot of people's minds because he was coming up a level, but he was really, really good at his previous stop. And he stepped in, and this is a Minnesota team that probably could have been 2 games better if they had. I think it wasn't a coaching issue because everything looked about the same week in and week out. I think it was seriously, it's a depth and a talent issue. If they can keep on, who's the Max Brosmer for this year? It's not a quarterback because he'll be back, right? He's back, right?
No, Max Brosmer. No, he's done. He's one and done here at University of Minnesota. Yes.
Okay, so Okay, who do you go get? Like, who's that guy?
Right.
And then how, now that you've proven, like, hey, you can come in here for a year or two, you can win, we can up your stock. Like, who is that guy and how they do it? Do you think PJ Fleck has changed his, maybe focus on talent acquisition a little bit?
Yeah, I think so, because, I think it was hard for him to admit that it was time for him and Ethan Kaliakmanis for that relationship to dissolve, because they had a good relationship before last year. I'm not saying this is a bad relationship now, but it just no longer served a purpose in terms of what they thought they would get out of Ethan Kaliakmanis. And kudos to them for recognizing that and going out and getting Max Brosmer. And like you said, it was a move that everybody was kind of turning around and thinking to themselves, well, who's this guy? He's coming up from New Hampshire. I mean, what? But the ROI on Max Brosmer was tremendous for this university. So much so that I know a lot of people here are thinking to themselves, I can't believe we only get Max Brosmer for 1 year. It seems harsh, because he played so well for Minnesota. PJ Fleck is already on record saying that, the transfer portal is now, they're into it now, and they're going to be looking to add, he said in his words, somewhere in between 10 to 12 to 15 players for the roster next year. And they're losing a lot of talent. They're losing Daniel Jackson. They're going to lose, who's their star wide receiver. They're going to be losing their starting left tackle in Ariante Ursary. Ja Joyner, one of their stars on the defensive line, I don't expect him to be back either at all. And then, like we just said, Max Brosmer. So there are going to be holes to fill on this team. Cody Lindenberg, their leading tackler at linebacker, he's going to be gone. So there's definitely a lot of holes to fill. If we're looking at quarterback specifically, they're going to be in the market for one. There's no question. But I'll admit, going back to spring ball, watching Max Brosmer and Drake Lindsey, who is still with the University of Minnesota, watching Drake Lindsey, I turned around to some guys watching him throw the ball, and I said to myself, are we sure Max Brosmer is going to start? Because Drake Lindsey looks pretty good. So I know that they're excited about him and what he has to offer to the table. That's not to say they won't be active in looking at the quarterback market, because I would absolutely believe that they will, and they're going to have to be. But Drake Lindsey, if Drake Lindsey progresses the way I saw him in practice at times earlier in the year, I think Minnesota has something on their hands here at quarterback.
Yeah. And we'll see. I think, and we'll see what happens down the line there. Now, Pierre, I need your help on this rant here. I need your moral and emotional support. Garrett, what do you want to?
Let's start with the stupid flag plant.
Okay,
crap.
we'll start with the stupid flag plant. So there is a representative from a state rep from Ohio.
Yeah.
And hold on, his name is Josh Williams, and that's the last name I will ever utter. I'll ever utter this clown's name again. He has introduced the OHIO Sportsmanship Act that would make it a felony to plant a flag in the center of Ohio Stadium. A greater waste of the public's time, I did not think possible. Because this is just the state of Ohio. Then I saw this from Mike Collins, who is in our actual House of Representatives. Mm-hmm. And Gary, you don't have the video from this, do you?
No.
Okay. So basically this moron got on the floor and said,
I watched it, by the way. I did watch this, yeah.
And it was like, I'd like to congratulate the Georgia Bulldogs on, and I'm not making fun of his voice. This is his, winning the SEC and the triumph of blah, 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 and send Texas back to the Big 12. Blah, 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 blah. Okay? All right, look. This is a bipartisan attack, a tripartisan, a whatever political affiliation you have. This is an attack on you as politicians and the people that enable them. Look, we have it all wrong in this country. We have it all freaking wrong. We listen to what these assholes say outside the building, okay? They go outside that building, the State House, the Congress, the Senate, wherever the hell they are, they say a lot of crap outside. They love saying stuff outside. oh, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to fix this problem, and this is never going to be an issue, and we've got all these good ideas. Okay? This is the crap that's got to stop. And we need our media, especially, to not report on what these idiots say, report on what they do. So every time one of them says something, and look, I know that I'm reporting on something that's like, it's kind of both right now. I'm talking about it, but let's stop, like, again, outside the building, nothing they say is worth anything. Inside the building is valuable. Inside the building is what matters. So we have a lot of, look, in college sports, there's a massive issue that they're begging for help on in NIL and all of that. Massive issue. And they said a lot of it outside. They said a lot inside. But when it comes down to actually getting it done, they've done nothing. They've written a couple bills. They may not make it out of committee. We don't even know what's going to happen. But we've got to start as a news media reporting on what these people do inside that building. And Mike Collins especially. Look, Josh Williams, okay, I said his name a second time. Josh Williams, stop being an idiot and pandering to these people. There are people in Ohio who need things way more than occasionally a player like Baker Mayfield or a Michigan guy getting charged with a felony for taunting you after a football game. You know it's not going to be a law. You're just pandering to your base. And if you don't know what this gesture means, look it up, okay? That's all you're doing. It's a little bit of that to your base to try to keep this job that you clearly don't deserve and don't know how to do. And Mike Collins, look, I understand that part of being a representative is to, cheer up the base and all that stuff and say great things that your constituents do. Guess what? Do that on your time outside the building. But you represent your district in Georgia, and you also, when you're in the United States House of Representatives, your ass represents me, Pierre, everybody. You represent everybody. When you're represented in that office, so you go in there and you fix the budget, you fix the problems, you vote on stuff, you work with the other side, and get shit done, and stop wasting our freaking time. And, I saw it, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's funny. No, it's not. It's not funny. It's tragic and sad, and Mike Collins is ridiculous. And everybody like that who does crap like that is ridiculous. Start looking inward. Start doing your job. Stop wasting our time, and let's move on. We're never going to get better if we waste Mr. Speaker, I would like to talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. Are the Georgia Bulldogs building a bridge? No, they're not. Shut up. Sit down. Come back to me when you have a solution to the border crisis or, some sort of budgetary resolution so that our soldiers and cops and firemen and all these people you claim to care about can know about their benefits or, how are we going to fix the education system that you say is broken? Come up with an idea for that since you're ready to talk about the Georgia football team. Figure that out. We don't need this from you, okay? So there, that's my rant, Pierre. I had to get it out, and I hope this goes into the world somehow. Some things get caught up, but Josh Williams, Mike Collins, go fly a kite. Go fly a kite, and that's the nicest way I can put that. That's the absolute nicest way I can put that. And I'm only really putting it that way because you're sitting here with me. Otherwise, I would absolutely continue to shred these clowns.
One of the keys to broadcasting is knowing when to let the moment speak for itself, and you don't have to say a word. Part of me thinks that, Garrett, I feel like we should go to the commercial.
Yep.
I've got nothing to add. I've got nothing.
Yeah. So, seriously. Seriously, it just, man. Kyle Visser says, Paul, you are not the dragon. That's true. I'm not. But I can rage with the best of them.
Yeah.
That's Craig. I can rage with the best of them, And here's the thing. I have a feeling that a lot of you who don't like this are on Mike Collins' team. And so everything that team does you think is bad and everything the other team does you think is wrong. Because that's where we are. Well, that's just ridiculous. You need to look. I'll tell you this, and this is why sports people you need to listen to sports people. I'm a Red Sox fan. I'm not just going to sit here and let them half-ass their way through an offseason and not say, like, hey, can you be better? You want me to buy tickets and shirts and all that stuff? You want us all to do that? Same with the Cowboys. Same with Florida State. Florida State is 2-10. And I can tell you right now, if they sent me a thing and said, we need help with NIL, I'd be like, look, first of all, you're barking up the wrong tree because I don't have enough money for that, and my wife would never let me do it. Third, I sound like Buzz, A, 2, and D. But also, like, you're 2-10. You spent a lot of money and went 2-10. So show me that you really care and are really going to fix it, and then maybe we can have this talk. But outside of that, no. Like, just stop it. So I think we need to start demanding way more from our Congress than we do from our sports teams.
It's, for me, watching this, and, you sent me the 2 clips, or 1 clip, and both of these stories, and I just think to myself, I just shake my head thinking to myself, how are we run by a nation of children? We're just a nation of children, and it's just like, this is a felony, even though it's a low-grade felony, you're going to make it a felony for a college kid. You could potentially ruin a young man's reputation by making him a felon in the state of Ohio. Or make him a president. No, that's true. Fair point. But, like, it's ludicrous to me. This is like you said it perfectly. It's a waste of our time. Let us go. This is one of those things where you're kind of the older kid of the group, and you're in charge of watching the kids, but you kind of leave them alone. Say, govern yourselves, handle yourselves. Don't make me come in here and have to do this. And I feel like this is where we are, where I have to step in and be like, why do you have to make me comment on something stupid like this? Yeah. Why are you doing this? It's infuriating. You're right. It's a complete waste of time.
Yeah, no. And look, guess what? I have a little bit of a sore throat right now. So that doctor you mentioned earlier,
well worth it.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I had to say it. And here's the thing. We've never had like a rant off between you and me, but that might be something we need to do one day. And I think we need to do it in person.
Honestly, I feel like you should clip exactly what you just said, and you got to save that one, because that was an all-timer. That one was really, really good. That was really good.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, I mean, this one, we have a budget now to, like, boost some posts. This is one I'm going to have boosted. I want to see how it goes. Yeah, because if
you have the feds at your door by 4:00, you've done something right today.
Yeah. Look, I didn't threaten anybody. I just said, hey, I would like to hold you accountable for it. Right. Here's the thing. I think that I would love to see Lester Holt come on the news tonight, or who's the guy, David Muir, and be like, you know what? For our just the middle story tonight, we're going to go through. We're going to do this once a week. We're going to go through the daily itinerary of a senator or congressman, and you tell me how this helped you today. Yeah. Like, if you were, because here's the thing, we're all their boss, right? And so I know this in the past, like, bosses have come and said, hey, I need to know what you do all day long. All right. Yeah. The fact that they don't know often is more of an indictment on them than it is on you a lot of the time. But sometimes they're doing it because they want to try and fire you. Sometimes you've asked for a raise and they want to know, like, okay, what are they doing that I don't know about? Those things. Well, these people, actually, their daily log is public record. So you can just go and look and say, like, and Mike Collins is going to go like, I went here, I did this, I fundraised, and then I finally got up to talk about something on the House floor. What'd you talk about? Student debt relief, expanding the electrical grid, energy crisis, any of these things, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine. Like, what'd you contribute to the greater discourse? Like, I just wanted to mention that the Georgia Bulldogs won the SEC again. Great. Yeah, we know that, Mike. We have phones. We have TVs. Nobody's watching C-SPAN hoping, like, man, I still don't know the score of the Georgia-Texas game the other night. I hope one of these guys gets to it. Like,
the only time I would expect something like that to come up is if, Mike would think to himself, you know what, I'm going to follow that up with Georgia intends to secede from the union. Like, our football team is so good, We're going to be our own island. We would like to secede from the United States.
Yeah. Yeah.
Try and stop us.
Wherever I am will be my country. Like,
Yeah,
so,
correct.
like the area around me is my. That's it.
Now you have my attention. Now
Yeah.
you're like, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
We're doing this now.
The United State of Paul, right
Yeah,
here.
correct.
And we have an agreement. We have a trade agreement. We are allies with the United States state of Pierre.
You should, you know, what you should do. You should come up with your own flag too, and plant it on the two sides of your car too. You know how like, you know, the American flag will the delegates are coming into a new country, and you know, just come up with your own flag and put that on your car and drive around with it and declare yourself, you know, the ambassador to the United States from the United States of Paul.
Yeah. Kyle Vicious said, Paul, if you need the entire context of the Georgia politician, it sounded like he was trolling Texas. No, I get the context.
Don't care.
I don't care. It's a waste of all of our time. It was a waste. Here's the thing. It's not a waste of my time here to rant about stupid bullcrap. That's the point of the internet. But it was like the fact that I'm talking about it is because he's wasting that time of the people of this country. And now I know, like, you know, most of the time these things go, like, they're there all the time. There's all these things, but we're in a really crap time in America right now where none of us agree on things and we just need to get things done. And then you're just going to be like, oh yeah, I hope that you guys saw a football game 4 days ago. And I would like to tease the other people from Texas because I can do that here. This will be great.
This is like I hired you to run my McDonald's and you're serving tacos the next day. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
That's not what I hired you for.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, well, Pierre, that's going to do it for the show today. We're not going to talk about the comedy of the Cowboys, but I'm sure they'll do something next week where we can talk about it. But it is America's fastest growing sitcom.
Real quick before we go to, I had a buddy of mine who texted me and said, God, I hate that rule. And by the rule, the block punt rule of how, like, you know, it's still a live ball if it's going to touch like a member of the receiving team. I don't know if I'm in favor of changing that rule just because of this, but at the same time, too, I think that's worth a look. Is it worth a look in your mind?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
I think it's worth a look.
Yeah, I think so. But just the way they lost that game. I mean, like,
Brutal.
they lose games.
Brutal.
It's, I feel bad for the guy, but I'm also a Cowboy fan who grew up in the Jimmy Johnson era where that guy, like, literally they would have taken his helmet when he came off the field.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, you're not going back in. Go ahead. Like, we've got 3 minutes left. That's a jump start on you to pack up your shit. Like, that would have been that.
As someone who was a child who watched Leon Lett give me the best Thanksgiving present of all time.
Oh.
Yeah,
Screw you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
I was living in South Florida. I was the Cowboys fan in South Florida and had to go back to school on Monday and have an actual nun who was a Dolphins fan tease 13-year-old me. Do you know what it's like to get taunted by a nun about football?
Sounds like it stayed with you, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Like
you know what? You want to hear why the previous rant hits me so hard? Because I was taunted by Sister Catherine about Leon Lett. Now, look, the Cowboys won the Super Bowl that year, so I got the last laugh. But still.
Classic Sister Catherine.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah. She was a badass, man. She was a really, like now in my, like after middle school, like, and I always liked her, but she was like the old school. Everything you know about, I mean, Pierre, you're Catholic. Everything you know about nuns, every stereotype about it, she was that. She was like, she wouldn't like smack you upside the head. She would like rabbit punch you in the kidneys if you were acting up. She wasn't messing around. And if you went to your parents and said like, oh, by the way, Sister Catherine suplexed me through a desk today, they'd be like, well, what'd you do?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the correct response from a parent. Yes, that is the exact response I would expect.
Yeah, no, like, oh, well, that's. I mean, there's, what do you mean? I don't follow your logic. Like, okay,
It sounds like she put the power of the Holy Spirit right through you, son. But maybe I guess you got to go back to school tomorrow. Like,
of course, like every generation of Catholics has more and more war stories. Like my dad would be like, listen, Sister Rita was my principal. She signed me up for the army when I was 9.
Oh, man. They don't make them like Sister Rita anymore, I tell you.
His father's like, listen, Sister Cecilia, she sent me back to Sicily. I just said,
right.
Look, you're going to go back. I was 4 months old, and she didn't like it. I messed my diaper on and on and on again. Well, Pierre,
I can't even go near a ruler anymore, thanks to Sister Mary Catherine. I can't. I can't even go near one.
I'll tell you right now, those suckers hurt.
Oh yeah,
those hurt. When we see you again, Pierre, it'll be next week. Then we'll be off for the holidays. So we'll try to bring some Christmas joy next week, as opposed to Paul's volcanic rage.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
So
Boys.
Pierre Noujaim, Fox 9 Minneapolis with us, mostly Thursdays, but he and Steven had to swap days because Steven's at a school Christmas program today. That's going to do it for us. We've got Zach Gelb on the show today. We have Taylor McCarg on the show today. I think we are going to have Kalani Sitake. We'll see if we have Kalani Sitake today, but he would be in the 5 o'clock hour on the big show. So that'll be great. That's all coming up, plus a defensive transfer portal look in. And we've got a lot to talk about because it looks like Bill Belichick is going to be a college football coach. Wow. This is the Triple Option. See you in an hour.